Okay. What do you do for a living? Where are you asking me questions? Hey, that's why I don't talk to y'all, because y'all just be retarded. I knew this is where that was going. What was the point of you saying hey to me if you're gonna be passive aggressive? Like, I don't understand people. People go out their way to be passive aggressive. All you gotta do is say it to my face. You should have just said, "You be on here every day doing the same thing. What do you do for a living?" You didn't have to ask what I do for a living and then try to like underhandedly ask, like imply something else. Just be direct. Like, that's all you gotta do is just be direct. Y'all come on here every day with the same old song, same problems, same hatred, same jealousy, same irritation, same insecurity, and I'm not doing nothing to you. So I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing, and you're gonna continue to be mad. It is what it is. Who cares? I don't smoke at all. I don't smoke, I don't drink. You want a candy? Want a piece of candy? Would you like a cookie? Cool.
Vivian actually was a track star when she was younger. She displayed a lot of pride in Shelley's accomplishment. I remember I went to her house, and it's really like a museum because all you see are medals and trophies, and it's just like wow. I just remember going, Shelley, look at this. This is like a shrine. But I always felt bad for Shelley in the sense that her parents never really went to Shelley's track meets because they worked all the time. And as long as I've known her, I never heard her complain about it. Sean Williams transferred to William Penn in September of '92 for senior year, just like Father. He was a new student at our school, and I guess she decided I'm going to go out and date him. We didn't talk a lot about him. He was just not on the radar. But sometimes when you're young and you think you're in love, but you're in your own world, and that's not always a good thing. We have to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves because one mistake could ruin our whole careers. We were see because we had Hickey. The legendary Tim Hickey. Tim Hickey is one of those coaches that could have been the head coach at any
Bro,
major
leave me alone.
university. What he did working on that level for young women. Hickey did not have a light touch with those girls. He was not a okay, you can do well if you're just focused. He was more like, y'all better get your asses up and get over to that goddamn track to warm up. Like he talked to them reckless. So it takes a thick skin to make it at William Penn. And Shelley Turner was cool as a cucumber. It could be hard on us. You have a very tight, I would say, leash on us girls. Who taught us what it took to be a winner? getting a scholarship in track and field was like the golden ring back then.
Track and field was the way for me, Shelly, and a whole lot of people to go to college.
Are you bored? What's your name? You're just talking, bruh.
Camaraderie, but underneath it all, there was only so many spots that could be had. So these girls, the stakes are very high. Getting into a good college is key because it could lead to the Olympics or it could lead to professional status, which leads to brand deal. It leads to your future career, and they had to either.
You know, I just got out the shower, so I'm just relaxing, and then here you are talking.
Everybody knew that Shelly was on her way to an athletic scholarship. And when I think about her biggest rivals, I think everybody would agree it was Toya Brown. Toya Brown was a
I don't know why they showing this shit now. Like, this is back in the 80s. Gotta be.
Trash talking was the norm because you do want to get into your competitor's psyche. You want to make them feel inferior.
If someone said something bad about Shelly, they knew not to say it to me because I had her back and she had my back. But people do talk.
There's a high level of anxiety when you are number one in something. I imagine that Shelly Turner spent a
Mean Girls.
who was coming after her. Around this time in women's sports, we had Monica Seles, who was attacked, stabbed during a match by a crazed fan. Shortly after that, you have
That's good. I write books.
Tanya Hardy, her rival, Nancy Kerrigan, gets hit in the knee with a club by Tanya's then ex-husband just to take out the competition. And so a lot of times being on top also meant being in danger.
I don't know. This shit said 1993.
William Penn had a track meet when we went to warm up. The coach asked me, "Where is Shelly?" I just went to her house to pick her up. And her mother, Miss King, said, "She's at your house." And I was like, no, she's not at my house. And the coaches gave me this look like, okay, where is she from? Why did her mother think that she was at your house? I'm like, I don't know. And I'm not snitching if I did know.
it was Martin Luther King Day. So there was no school, but William Penn had a track meet. And Shelly was missing.
And we run that day. We get back home and no one has still heard from her. And we're like, okay, what is going on? At that point, the mother called and filed a missing persons report.
Oh, brother.
Video police said the last time she saw her daughter was on Sunday. She was under the impression that Shelly was going to spend the night at Wanda's house and they would come to the track meet the next day.
She went to that boy house.
The West Detective Juvenile Division were assigned to the case.
If you're 94, you need to get the hell off of her.
Neighbors, anybody that might
No shit.
contact with her. That's how they learned that her friend across
Get
the
off
street-
here. No, I'm just kidding.
According to the neighbor, Shelly had actually been with her boyfriend, Sean Williams.
Shelly's mother, Vivian, kept a very strict household, and one of the biggest rules was no boyfriends because to be an elite athlete, you have to be focused solely on that. And so Vivian was unaware of Sean. She didn't really know much about him, and for that reason alone, she did not trust Sean at all.
Sean had just transferred to William Penn in 12th grade. I did not meet him or talk to him because we weren't friends. But when you think about it, The first thing, when a girl goes missing, the police, they look right away at who? The husband, the boyfriend. They go right to that.
I remember the detectives coming to my house asking me, have I seen Shelly? And I was like, no, I didn't. Last time I saw her was on Sunday. It was very shocking to me because I had no clue that Shelly had been missing. The detectives say, hey, we want to take you down the station and ask you some questions. Wasn't scared, was more concerned. I didn't realize at the time that I was a suspect.
Now, where they
That
pull
my
all these people
detectives
from?
need at my family's house. I introduced Shelly to my family, to my siblings and my mom. We had dinner. We was hanging out. Once we get to the end of that night, we realized, hey, it's kind of late. She had to track me the next day. I lived maybe half a block
Oh,
where public transportation was to take her home. I walked into the trolley. So she got on the trolley, said goodnight, and she went home. If she didn't tell her mother the details of her evening,
why
she
would
didn't
you
even
be
know.
a cop? Like, get off of here.
Cell phones then. You couldn't text to say, hey, did you make it home okay? I went back in the house, said goodnight to my family, and I went to bed. Surveillance, tracking, cell phones, pinging different towers, none of that was in play there. So it was just my word. And so, yes, I was the last person to see her, but I didn't have anything to do with her disappearance. According to Sean Williams, she left his house at about 1:30 in the morning. The detectives found the driver and he verified that Sean had put her on the bus and had not gone on the bus with her. So that cleared him. I also had to take a polygraph test, which I passed, and that was that. But then it became more of a mystery because the route did not go directly to her house. And the bus driver said he let her off 6 blocks from where her house was.
Pieces of the puzzle were coming together, but that's not the pieces that you want. You don't want to know that your friend jumped on a trolley and never made it home.
If it was 2 o'clock in the morning and she was walking the street by herself, anything could have happened to her.
That is when it started to get really scary because now you're thinking, okay, what happened between trolley stop and front door?
Something's really wrong with y'all. Mean girls. How many times I gotta say this shit? Nope.
Police didn't have a lot to go on. The exact whereabouts of Shelley were always in question. And Sean was the last person.
Oh my god, get on my nigga. Are you okay?
There's no indication of what could have happened to her. And so all they could really use were the rumors, the gossip from people who were closest to Shelley.
Everyone had to be questioned about what we think we know about that night. When I was talking to the detectives, the line of questioning back then was, can you think of anyone who will want to hurt? And the rumors were that Shelley was having a really tough time with the girls that she was going to be competing against. We had opponents, but Overbrook High School, they were definitely our
Thank
rivals.
you. Leave me alone.
Toya was a major factor on that team.
Everything stopped every time they raced because you never knew. You never knew which way it was going to go. One day is Toya, next day is Shelly, all the way to their last race. And I don't think that any of us could have saw what was coming next.
I'm chilling.
Crossed my mind that a rival, another girl that hated Shelly so much, would do something to her until Shelly went missing.
We talk about now people getting participation trophies and everybody's a winner, but it just wasn't like that in the 90s. Either you came in first or you were last. There was nothing in between. Desperate people will do anything to get ahead. They'll even resort to violence.
I didn't want to be second in anything. I was one of the top runners in the state and even the nation. Everyone knew who I was. So I never stepped on the track intimidated. I always thought, I'm out here to win. And one of my track rivals at the time was Shelly Turner. So the vibe at a high school competition, you're not friendly with the other school. You're not, over there, you're not, in their space. You don't do that because track is very much, a mental sport. All of us knew we were all competing, to get these scholarships. You had to be very strategic at a very young age. We thought that way. And I saw how far others would take it to win. But once the race is over, it's over. You're thinking about how you're going to get back at them on the track. But I never thought of violence. For me, competing with Shelly, it drove me to be my best. We were competitors, but we respected one another. I remember finding out that Shelly was missing. It was just surreal. All we knew was she got on a bus and she never made it home. And I knew the route. I knew the streets.
Dude,
A lot of things and anxiety. And
what
I
is
wanted
your
to be a
problem?
part of the solution. So I went to her house.
I remember walking to the living room and we were talking to our mom, Vivian, talking to our sister to try to be optimistic, to try to be positive. The neighbors were being wonderful. People were bringing food, they were bringing drinks. It was jam packed because everybody on the block knows who Shelly Turner is.
We got together hosting flyers and searches and things like that. We did the things we could do as young people to try and find her.
I was keeping my eye on our track kids. I was keeping my eye on Hickey because when Shelly disappeared, Hickey was a mess. But we had to keep it in for the kids.
All of us was knocking on doors just to bring awareness. But as the days went on, the crowd just diminished. There's no new news. There are, great inequities when it comes to Black girls going missing, the kind of coverage they get, whether or not they become household names. We did not want it to fade. We did not want people to forget about her. During my senior year in high school, I wrote for a teen section in the Philadelphia Daily News. My mentor, Jackie Jones, who was the city editor, she assigned a reporter to cover it.
From that time on, she was on the front page of the Enquirer and the Daily News every single day.
Her mother was giving interviews on the news, on radio, pleading really anywhere she could for any help in finding her daughter.
I was hoping, and the team was hoping, that with all this publicity, we would figure out what happened to her.
A month after Shelley had been missing, a man walking his dog in Fairmount Park found a body. I went out to the scene with the detectives, and it was just horrible.
I remember one of my teammates come over to my house. I'm laying in my room, and they were saying there's a body found, and they think it's her. So I just, I'm like, I'm praying. Like, please don't let that be her. Please don't let it be somebody else. We were hopeful, so hopeful, and it was so dashed when that was discovered.
It's like, what's their gut? It's just tragic. Like, I couldn't like, fathom something like that happening to her. I really just couldn't. And of course, you want to find out who would do something like that.
Everybody was like incredibly sad, but then the sadness just goes to anger. It's like, okay, now we're going to move to finding out what happened to her. Now somebody's going to pay for this.
The autopsy showed no signs of sexual assault, but they could see that Shelley had been beaten.
There were some bruises, and she looked like she had been hit on the head, but the cause of death was 6 gunshot wounds to the body.
They were found in her head, chest, and neck, and one shot to her hand, like she tried to shield herself from the gunshots.
When you hear those details that she was shot and that it was at close range, you think that it was deeply personal. At the time, the overwhelming consensus was that someone who knew her did it.
3 large caliber bullets were found in the vicinity of her body where she was discovered in Fairmount Park. That told police that Shelley wasn't just dumped there. This is where the shooting happened.
Unfortunately, the detectives didn't find anything else of any value at the scene. So it was really hard for them.
Everyone who was close to Shelley was a person of interest.
The investigation was turned over to the
We gotta
homicide
make it
division
end, so I'm
of
concerned.
the Philadelphia Police Department. New interviews were taken by the detectives with anybody involved in the investigation. At that time, Vivian King was trying to help the detectives to identify persons of interest.
I don't know.
Vivian tells police that she was worried that perhaps Shelley's relationship with Coach Hickey was more than just coach and athlete, because Coach Hickey and her daughter were extremely close.
He didn't really have a private life outside of track and field. If you ever went to his apartment, there was magazines and cassette tapes stacked to the rim, almost like he was a hoarder of track and field.
You have this white man who drives a van, and he only coaches black girls. He travels across the country with them.
People would come up to me and say, "Hey, you better watch him. I heard he had a relationship with an athlete." That was heartbreaking. We traveled together. He drove us everywhere. He was like a father figure, but some people cannot be trusted.
So he did it?
One day I got a phone call from the police, and they said Vivian King has mentioned that Tim Hickey has killed her. And I said, "You've got to be, this is nuts." I said, "I don't believe this."
I just don't think anybody knows what happened. I don't think they ever will know what happened.
He was old then and he's still old in the bitch.
Coach Hickey was a single man. He lived alone. He had no family. He would just go to track meets all over. He would just pick up kids and he would talk to their parents and have them send them to William Penn High School.
He had favorites, and those favorites got the best treatment, especially Shelley Turner.
Shelley was one of quote unquote Hickey's girls. She was doing more of his events.
Shelley loved Hickey, and she was like very defensive about him. Like she just would not let anybody mess with Hickey.
I can see how the lines could easily be crossed. As close as our coaches were to us, you know, being on the road with us, being in hotels with us over the weekend.
The cops checked out his van, checked out his house, checked out him.
His alibi was he was with a group of people that night. They checked it all out. He was with the group of people. He didn't do it. So now Coach Hickey had been cleared.
Everybody knows Hickey loved those kids. What is a teacher? It's to take some kid from where you find them and move them on to the next level. That's what he did. I know it tore Hickey up because he was always going to remain a person of interest. The funeral was extremely well attended. Everybody was there.
People who competed against her, people who competed with her were at the funeral. It was like a sea of people outside, and everybody who knew her, they are absolutely wrecked. Sean Williams, Shelley's boyfriend, he literally walked up to Shelley's mom, Vivian, and tried to hug her to offer condolence. She said, "Don't touch me. Like, get off me. Don't touch me." And now people are looking at him in this church like, you're the reason she left the house that night. It's your fault. He was always going to be a suspect.
I just thought, you know, she's a grieving mom. I knew how I felt, and I knew nobody could judge me. But after that, I didn't want to like continue. It was like really hard.
Yeah, see you
Faith,
tomorrow. Bye. Yeah,
so I
good on that.
came to the conclusion like I'm just not going to go back to school.
After Shelley's body was found, they still needed answers. And Shelley's friend, Mr., was able to get Mary Mason interested in trying to help.
Mary Mason was a radio personality, and she was the foremost influencer in Philadelphia. So for her to be involved, for her to be raising her voice, you know, saying Shelley's name, that's a big deal.
Damn.
Vivian King went on the Mary Mason radio show, and she was trying to help Vivian and the family. There had been a $6,000 reward put out for information leading to finding Shelley. Mary suggested that maybe the reward could be increased to 25,000, and maybe they would get more information that way. And then Vivian did something that was very surprising. She described the scene in Fairmount Park. Vivian begins describing in detail what sounds like could have been Shelley's last moments, describing how her teeth were glistening in the moonlight and how she was holding her hands up to protect herself from the shooting.
So who did it? Oh my God.
She was acting kind of odd. Who says Shelley's teeth must have been glistening in the moonlight? I mean, that's not something anybody would have been thinking.
And Mason was quite opinionated. And after the interview, she called the newspapers and she says, "There's something wrong." The news media had covered it and it got a lot of publicity.
People whisper and they gossip and stuff starts to get back. And we started to pick up that the adults weren't really feeling Vivian King.
Vivian was very much about keeping up with appearances. She wanted everyone around her to believe that she and Shelley had the perfect family life. But it was really just masking what was happening behind closed doors. Mary doesn't necessarily believe Vivian is involved in Shelley's murder, but she knows that she was acting odd.
Mary Mason was talking with the news media, and Vivian got word of this. And because of that, she decided she better talk to the detectives and clear herself. So she contacted them and volunteered to take a polygraph exam. She took the polygraph exam and she flunked it.
Mm-mm.
The polygraph operator turned her over to the homicide detectives, and that's what really led her to say, okay, I'll tell you what really happened.
Who is this? Her mama? I'm confused.
Vivian King was working as a nurse's aide at the time, but I think she spent more time partying. She was a heavy drinker. In her statement, she talked about how she was mad at Shelley when she got home because she was late and they were arguing in the house. Vivian had been drinking heavily and she was pretty tanked up. And Vivian said, I'm taking you to the police station. She wanted them to send her to a juvenile facility. You can't live in the house anymore. That's basically what she was saying.
Vivian wouldn't even let Shelley put on her jacket or even her shoes. And as they're leaving the house, unbeknownst to Shelley, there is a revolver in Vivian's pocket.
Mother was going to take her to the police station to drop her
Her
off.
own mama did it.
But then she drove right past the police
I
station.
was not expecting
To
this.
the point I don't know what Shelley would have thought.
They went to the park. She proceeded to try to fight her daughter. And then the gun came out.
Vivian apparently hit Shelley with the gun on the head. And then she shot her. And then found a piece of tarp and covered her over with it.
She said she left her there, came back to the house, and went to sleep. When Vivian was asked why she shot Shelley, her response was, I just lost my mind.
I was shocked. I would never think that a mother would hurt her child like that. It was so devastating.
Then she got the nerve to act all shocked and shit.
There's no amount of excuses in the world that you could ever give that would make that okay.
My first impression of Vivian King, I felt so awful. I felt so sorry for her because her daughter's missing. We were sitting across the table, like we prayed, we shook hands, we hugged, but that confession was like the ultimate, like just stab in the gut. We were all just so devastated that this woman conned us.
This entire case centered on Vivian. She was the source of every rumor, of every piece of gossip. Blaming the boyfriend, Sean Williams, blaming the coach, Tim Hickey, it all came from Vivian.
Vivian King had run track.
She never got the chance to go to an elite school or go to the Olympics. And while Vivian could have just been living vicariously through Shelley, she was also secretly resentful.
I think probably the real motive was just that she was jealous.
You don't gotta get on here, bruh. You get on here every day.
Get out on Shelley. That she had never succeeded the way Shelley had.
We think about rivalries and beef and battles, and the reality was that Shelley's biggest mean girl rival lived under the same roof as her.
No, don't you have anything better to do? You're on my live for the 15,000th time complaining. All you do is complain, bruh, and hate on what I'm doing. I'm minding my business. You're minding my business with me. Like, be easy, bitches. You cool?
10-year minimum and was paroled.
People could say she served her time and she paid her debt, but Jesus Christ, like you kill your daughter in cold blood, and you got people hanging flyers and looking for her, praying for you, and you were the one all along. Like, I think that was worth much more time.
When everything came to light, how can I go to school? How could we come together as a team? We had a lot of support, but we still had to get on that track and perform. I recall us going to the Penn Relays. Without Shelly being a part of our team, we knew we had to really, really work to make sure that we won. And we still came out victorious.
Another great victory for William Pence. Now, talk to me about the fact that you had a teammate earlier this year. Tragedy occurred. Were you thinking of her at all when you came here this weekend?
Yes. People just pull out for her. This is her best race. She does pull out for her. She's always in my memory. She's always going to be a part of me. And I'm going to forever, for a lifetime, hold her in my heart.
On the next Mean Girl Murders.
Thank you.
Girl, all right.